Welcome to another episode of Ruff Talk VR, a weekly podcast with in-depth game reviews, exclusive developer interviews, and the latest MetaQuest and virtual reality news. We join our hosts, the father-son team of D. Scruffles and Stratus today, as they spend another episode breaking down and discussing the world of virtual reality.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we have a fun one. We have another crazy coconut.
There's fun and there's extra fun.
Yeah,
it's going to be a little extra.
We always love to talk about the team from, Mighty Coconut, from Walkabout Mini Golf. One of our favorite VR games, one of the best social VR games in general. And we were even joking yesterday, I think they might be, at this point, our most talked to studio.
Yep.
But not only do we have a coconut, Michele Martell, no relation to Lucas either. That's kind of funny how that works, but she's the head of licensing. And then we're also joined with Vince, the co-founder of Meow Wolf, I don't even know what to say, the art collaboration.
I have read the description so many times, and I still have to reread the description to fully encompass exactly what Meow Wolf is.
Well, fear not, we have the co-founder and the director,
I know.
One of the directors over at there, Vince, so he'll be able to tell us a little bit more about it. But Michele and Vince, do you mind to each introduce yourself a little bit more for our listeners and perhaps tell them a little bit more about yourself better than I can?
Sure, I'll go first. So I'm Michele Martell. I'm actually an entertainment lawyer. I grew up in northern New Mexico, so I have been to Meow Wolf many times. Lived and worked in Los Angeles, worked for brands like the Muppets and the WWE, and then moved to Austin, Texas about 10 years ago, where I was connected with the Martells of Mighty Coconut because we were all in the same entertainment business and had the same last name. So people in Austin were like, how do you guys not know each other? And so I've worked with Lucas and the team now for about the last 5 years, primarily as general counsel, and then with a real focus on licensing and marketing and partnerships along with David Wyatt.
Ooh, that's quite the background there. I got 100 questions, but before I go into it, Vince, do you mind introduce yourself a bit more too?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Vince Kadlubek, and I'm a co-founder and director of Meow Wolf. Meow Wolf is based here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. That's where our headquarters is at. And it's also where we opened our first large-scale immersive storytelling experience called the House of Eternal Return, which is like, it's a real psychedelic, like artistic expression of a like walk-through story world. And it was 2016 when we opened that project, and then it kind of went viral. And we then built the company up and expanded and opened a project in Las Vegas, Nevada in 2021 called Omega Mart. And then a project in Denver the same year called Convergence Station. And then we just opened a project in Dallas this past year called The Real Unreal, and we'll be opening Houston next year. So we're building these like large scale, very maximal, very like visually stunning storytelling experiences sort of all around the country right now. That's the hope. And then expanding into other mediums like VR, graphic novels and tabletop RPGs, and kind of expanding our Meow Wolf universe, however it is that we can.
Well, that's quite the journey in, 7-8 years. First one launching in 2016, and now you're quite a few cities.
Yeah. No two exhibits are the same. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, they're all unique and like vastly unique. The Dallas one's a little bit similar to our Santa Fe one for intentional reasons, but we're trying to build out like a whole story universe, and so that means like building out a bunch of different types of environments.
Okay. Well, this is released after the release of the actual course, the day after, so I can fairly say that I have played the course. I'm assuming you loving Walkabout have also played the course. For someone who's never been to the exhibit and they're playing the course, how do you feel the interpretation was met, being in that environment and playing mini golf?
Yeah, so the course is based on a world that we created called Numina, and Numina can be physically visited in Denver at the Convergence Station project. And we started with that as our source material. the creative director of Numina, Katie Kennedy from Meow Wolf, worked directly with the Mighty Coconut team to build Numina in Walkabout. And the articulation is, it's incredible. I'm bringing Numina to life, seeing the characters and the creatures and having just animation, the sound and the magic of Numina within Walkabout is like such an incredible extension of what we created in Denver. We're so psyched about this. Yeah.
So going backwards a bit, you referenced it a moment ago, the word on the street is you're quite the Walkabout Mini Golf fan. So how did you discover virtual reality, specifically Walkabout Mini Golf? And what was the point that you said, oh, I have to try to get some Meow Wolf touch in this?
Yeah. So I travel a lot. I'm at a lot of speaking gigs, and I travel for business quite a bit. And a couple years ago, I was in a relationship with a guy, and we would use our headsets as a way to connect while I was on the road. And so Walkabout was the best game. Do that in. And it was also just so lovely, when we downloaded and started playing it, it was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. An amazing place to also just meet up and see each other. And so we kind of started to build a secondary relationship with each other within Walkabout, even though we were also dating in real life. And I fell in love with the game. The design, it's hard to really pinpoint what good design is and what good artistic instincts are, but you kind of just feel it when you feel it, and it's within the game, in maps like Quixote Valley or Arizona Modern, even which is so funny because Arizona Modern is so minimal, yet that's probably the map where it dawned on me how beautiful and how just how good of instincts the Mighty Coconut team had, that it made us realize, me and my boyfriend made us realize oh, maybe Meow Wolf could do something inside of Walkabout. I think that there's a kindred spirit thing happening here. And so we reached out to them, just sort of cold emailed them, and to our surprise, they knew about us and were psyched about us, and we conversation forward from there. But yeah, and I think that instinct, that kindred spirit instinct, I think was right, because this process of collaboration with them and seeing the work that they did, which was primarily Mighty Coconut work, is just stunning. So
now, because we have Michele here, at what point in these discussions do you get the message that, hey, we need you to be involved in this? I'm sure there's always conversations that take place, but I'm also sure that you're not having to go to each one of them until it reaches a certain point in the discussion.
Well, actually on this one, because I'm a New Mexico native and I understood what Meow Wolf was, I think somebody had circulated, hey, this guy, Vince Kadlubek, likes Walkabout Mini Golf. But people didn't really know what Meow Wolf was. And so I'm going to be take some credit here, because I know what Meow Wolf is. Because when it hit the scene in Santa Fe, so I probably don't get your dates right, Vince, but I remember, maybe a year after Meow Wolf opened in Santa Fe, it had become the number one reason people went to Santa Fe. Yeah. Not the Indian art market, not any of the other things. It was Meow Wolf. And so because I, sort of have this New Mexico connection and had gone there a bunch of times, I understood it and had that same sense that Vince did, which was, these are kindred spirits. And so then the tipping point was getting Lucas Martell, David, and then our chief designer, Don Carson, who is a former Disney Imagineer, on a plane out to Santa Fe. And they met Katie and Vince and a bunch of people. We toured the space. And the thing that I was really pushing for was, once there is a meeting of the minds, literally this is going to happen, because everybody's brains are the same. They're going to totally vibe with each other. And so I think that meeting where then Lucas and Don could see it and get the creativity. And I think even very early on at those early meetings, Katie and you guys were talking about how fun it would be to build in the fourth dimension, right? Where you were constrained by gravity and federal requirements for ADA compliance. And they just instantly started thinking about, what could we build if we didn't have to worry about any of those things? So it was like, what is the thing that exists, but you can't see it in the IRL world, but we could do it in VR. And then from there, I think it just took off. So this uniquely was one where I think I pushed it a little bit, because I had this New Mexico pride of like, no, this is a thing and you guys need to go there and see the thing. And then after that, they were in love. So it was good.
And of course, we had seen Mighty Coconut's other licensing that they were doing. And, knowing that that's kind of where they were at from a business perspective, but then also seeing the curation of what they were into, like hitting on like exact things that were inspirational for us at Meow Wolf, like Labyrinth and Mist, and just being like, they had such a good understanding of what worlds like genuinely touch the hearts of many of us creatives growing up. And, so that really was a big inspiration for us too. It's like, if we could be one of those licenses and be alongside these other like iconic properties, that would be like a huge, honor.
Well, I'll say the team absolutely. We always debate like, oh, this course is now my favorite. Or
we have recency bias.
And I rarely ever like say like, oh no, absolutely, this one's my favorite. But this one legit is my favorite. I've never, all the courses are good. I've never been disappointed, but there's something uniquely special about this. It's the most visually stunning course I've seen to date. I can't even describe until people have been in it. And especially if you're flying around, I was ill prepared for the amount of level of detail,
the creatures,
the size, the creatures. Some of them are really freaky.
Trippy to say the least.
But yeah, I feel like, because I've never been to an actual Meow Wolf exhibit, so I don't know, like, but I feel like I would be prepared if I went. Like, I'd have an expectation of like, this is going to be absolutely an amazing adventure I'm going to go on. I don't know how long these exhibits take to go through, but an hour of Walkabout Mini Golf is certainly feeding that desire to like, I want to see one,
Sweet. Yeah. And like, what's cool about Numina too is that, people will get to go to Numina physically and be in a pretty cool, like similar one-to-one articulation of it, but see it physically, in a way that is incredibly unique in the world of VR. Like, I don't know of any other example where you can visit in VR and then go and visit in real life. A fantastical world, at least, Well,
and one not so clean cut is like a sidewalk in a house.
Right.
It's like every foot is something different and unique that I just think everyone. So you had to put all your faith, more or less, is what you did, into the Walkabout team to come up with this vision that replicated the meaning and feeling of Meow Wolf.
Yeah, Katie especially. So Katie is like our creative director on this project, and who also was creative director for the physical Numina. She's a co-founder. And so Katie met with the team at that meeting of minds that was talked about, and she, just in dialogue was like, yeah, they're just like us. Like, they're just extensions of us. This collaboration is going to be really easy. And I put her inside of Walkabout, and I walked her through a series of courses too, to point out the things that I thought were like key details as to why Mighty Coconut is artistically sound in this way, or at least artistically aligned with us. And there's small things like audio, like the audio that they do, like the just sort of like pleasant, the ability to pull out like these pleasant feelings, the humor. So she, she worked with the team, worked with Don pretty closely, and they went and visited Numina in Denver, and they started sketching, and it was just like the way that the communication happened was an obvious sign that this was going to work out. And so, yeah, she put a lot of faith into the team, and it turned out.
And I'm going to guess, like most people who are involved in Meow Wolf on the business side have gotten to experience it as well.
I would say like only a handful, actually. A lot of the executive team is waiting for this, the 7th to check it out. and we actually have a board meeting coming up where we're going to share it with our board members as well. And so it's kind of like a nice surprise for a lot of our team. Like they know that they could step into it right now if they wanted to, but they kind of want to wait for the release to do it, which is cool. Yeah. And what's also neat about this process that I think is unique, is that we actually built the physical numina in Gravity Sketch before we then designed it and built it in real life. So like Katie was 5 years ago in Gravity Sketch, like building numina. And so then we like took that and then turned it into design files and did, years and years of development to actually bring it to life. But then now to come full circle and like be back in Gravity Sketch and back in VR with it. It's like, it's such a cool sign of like where we are right now in the 21st century. It's awesome.
Yeah, I can only imagine, seeing your creation, your in-person creation, Meow Wolf, become a reality, and now seeing it in VR as well and look so beautiful must be amazing. And Michelle's referenced Don a few times. Don, we've had him on before. Don's an amazing creative mind.
He's crazy good.
Like you said, former Disney Imagineer, so I can only imagine him going crazy with ideas and inspiration. But maybe you can talk about this a little bit, Michelle. How long did this course take to, put together once it was full steam ahead? Was there a lot of artistic revision? And what was the energy like in the, the art team with it?
Yeah, so it takes about a year for a course. I would say that Meow Wolf has been probably the most challenging to date, I think, in a way, because of the collaboration, where it was really kind of inventing new things, say, compared to Labyrinth, where we were in the story of Labyrinth, right? And so we're manifesting it in the Walkabout look, but we're not writing a new chapter, right? And so this had this quality of being, collaborated on, and so was very hands-on. And I think one of the things that's so compelling to me about kind of the two experiences, so you were struggling at the beginning to come up with a good definition for Meow Wolf. Like, what is it? Sometimes I say it's like a children's museum on acid, but you can't. It doesn't really do it. And I think in both cases, what you have is sort of the structure of a narrative, but an invitation to come in and make of that narrative what you will, right? So Walkabout invites you in either to play and do sort of all the linear things of mini golf, or it's just you go in and you mess around, or you go meditate on the 9th hole, or you do whatever it is. And so that's very like Meow Wolf. I mean, we're going with my kids, and one kid wanted to spend 9 hours and read every clue and every detail, and the other ones just wanted to run around and be chaotic and see. And it's like, yes, all of those are ways to experience it. So I think there was such kind of overlap on that foundational creative that it pushed everybody to do this, like the most elaborate thing that Mighty Coconut has done to date. So yeah, very exciting.
And we wanted to create, like in the way that Meow Wolf works too. It's like once we trusted Mighty Coconut, we also wanted Mighty Coconut to feel like and be artists inside of this numina. And so a lot of the rooms that you can discover and a lot of the artwork was also just saying like, y'all do it. Like y'all create it. Like don't base it off the source material at all. Like just do whatever you want to do that is going to be cool, that you think is going to be cool, that like itches your own like deepest artistic self. And I think with that, that's like a different kind of freedom that also adds some complications, but then you can see the results of it.
And Vince, you know what it's very like? I remember when you came to Austin, probably 5 years ago, when you guys were sort of looking at Austin as a location, and I'm in the crowd listening to you, you know what I mean? And I remember people asking you some question about like, how did you pick the different artists who participated? And you had some answer, which was like, you just told them participate, right? Like that was the answer, is like show up and be an artist. And so I love that you're saying that's exactly what happened with Walkabout. I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You can already feel the good chemistry, the good energy, even just between you two. You can tell that it's kind of like a perfect partnership. But, for you, Vince, what was the point that you got to try the course the first time? And what was that like, putting on the headset and unsure of what the end result's going to be, and then boom, loading in?
So I did an interview with a VR publication last week, and I did it inside of VR. I did it inside of Numina, and the feeling was overwhelming. Honestly, it was so like, I was the CEO of Meow Wolf from 2014 to 2019. So 5 years in very formidable years, as we opened the House of Eternal Return in Santa Fe, and we built the company, and we signed leases in Las Vegas and in Denver, and raised a bunch of capital in order to expand Meow Wolf. And I was, it was such a big dedication for me at that time. And the promise of Meow Wolf throughout that entire journey, the promise that I was selling to investors and selling to the team and selling to myself, was this promise that our worlds would translate into other mediums, that like we can do amazing physical build outs, but that our creativity will translate into other mediums. So to actually be in our first other medium expression within Walkabout, and to see that it does translate, and to feel the magic, and to feel Meow Wolf in it. Like, this is Meow Wolf, like was, like, just like, it was just like, whoa, like here we are, just mind blown, and like tears. I definitely was like getting emotional about it, So yeah, that's a good question. And it was like a really epic moment for me.
I love that people like myself that don't live in a city that I can't experience it, right? So had this not existed, and if it doesn't come to an area near me, or if I'm in an area and I happen to be told, so it's exposed me to it, which is going to expose millions of other people to it, which if half of them are like me, now they want to go to one of the exhibits, and I'm hoping it comes to a city near us. So I love the whole concept, and psychedelic is an understatement.
Yeah, and the execution of it's amazing. It's like
phenomenal.
I'm remembering my reaction to loading into the easy course the first time, and I was just blown away. I was almost speechless. Even the soundtrack, and it's amazing. Mm-hmm. So I can only imagine, as one of the creators, one of the founders, just going in and seeing your creation in VR as one of your favorite VR games must have been, something
magical.
Yeah, to say the least. And for you, Michele, you have quite the background. You touched on it a little bit before, a little bit of time in WWE, and then you ended up in Austin. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about, I guess, your journey pre Mighty Coconut, and how that led into suddenly being in a VR company, if that's ever something that you thought you would be working in with gaming?
Yeah. So, I was just a lawyer doing lawyer stuff inside law firms. And then once I escaped and got to the Jim Henson Company, I sort of give that place credit for allowing me to come out from behind the desk. And then once that happened, they could never put me back behind the desk. And so really just getting to be, kind of seeing what it was to work with creative people, and to know that even though I'm kind of coming in with, lawyer skills, it was like, but it was part of the team, right? So I would be out at the Creature Shop talking to them about their technology for digital puppeteering, or, the video game group that worked with Traveler's Tales to create Muppet Race Mania. And so really that was the place where I got to experience kind of a really creative company that was always evolving. So on the edge of what is new, the latest technology, but always with this spirit of kind of communal creativity. Because one of the hallmarks, I think, of Henson, even after, Jim had been dead for almost 10 years by the time I got there, was this sense that every single person is creative, right? So if the lawyer wanted to say a creative thing, nobody was like, be quiet, lawyer, you can only do Times New Roman font. You can't talk about creative things. So it was really the place where it allowed me kind of to function in that way. And then really have kind of lived in that space, right? Which is working with creative people and creative companies, kind of with my lawyer hat on, about like, how do we manage intellectual property and contracts, but really enjoying kind of surfing the chaos that is production, that is development, that is getting stuff made. So I've actually done a lot of work in video games, and And actually, we did work very early on with John Burton at Traveler's Tales. And this is like early PlayStation 1. And I remember he was talking about how, the technology wasn't really there to deliver, 4K detail into the mist. And so it was all about how do you use the human brain to do storytelling if the technology wasn't there, right? That you could cheat, that you didn't have to go crazy about detail. And when I first saw Walkabout and thought this has that same quality, which the low poly isn't a detriment. In fact, it's just sort of a creative framework. Like, now be as creative as you can within this framework. And sometimes if I go down like a Reddit rabbit hole and people be like, oh, it's low poly. And I'm like, well, you clearly have not played, because you don't care once you're inside the game, because everything else is there for you. And so I think one of my roles with Mighty Coconut is to say to them, you guys have a thing. In the world of creativity, you have created a thing just like Meow Wolf that has value to people. And that is the hardest thing to do, in creating content or creating product. Is you could have great ideas, but if it doesn't actually resonate with people. And so when you have something that has that, Walkabout is largely word of mouth. People share it. I mean, Vince is probably the same. Like, I just tell total strangers, hey, have you tried Walkabout Mini Golf? I want you to play this. I'm desperate for you to try it. And just really thinking constantly, very carefully about, our most kind of valuable resource is that relationship with the player community. And really, nothing about the game is invasive or data scraping. Everything about it is just sort of pure. Like, you bought it, come play it, have a fabulous time. We love you. And that is so rare, especially in the video game universe where, it's all microtransactions and first person death. And to be able to come here and have it be so sophisticated in the mechanics, but so delightful in the experience, I think really confounds people, but is part of the magic.
Ooh, that was a fantastic answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't lie, when I first got my Quest 2 and I'm looking for new VR experiences, and I kept seeing Walkabout Mini Golf as the one of the top games, especially for social VR at that time and still now. I remember thinking, my first thought was, Mini Golf is one of the best VR games. How can such a thing be? And then you go into it, and within a minute, the first time you take a swing and you look around it, you get it right away. And then you go in with a friend, somebody that or maybe even a complete stranger that you matchmake with, and oh my goodness, it's so much fun. So it's one of those that, anybody that sees it low polygon or thinks, how good can mini golf be? Just go in, experience it, and like I said, within a couple minutes, you'll completely understand it.
I've never met I shouldn't say never. I have not ever met anybody who played it
and didn't like it.
I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's the one game that unites families who live far away from each other, friends. People have meetings in Walkabout. Our Discord has a group set every time there's a new DLC that's mentioned to already have it for opening day. So, but both of these have that it factor. So it's really like, I respect all the other courses, of course, but this collaboration is, to me, just a little different than, we'll say like Labyrinth was, which was phenomenal. But to have like that artistic, and now finding out artists were given artistic freedom to open their mind and try things they might never be able to do in a 3D environment, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. It's awesome though.
Kind of, I guess, the same question for you too, Vince. How did life lead up to Meow Wolf? What were you doing prior to that? And how did Meow Wolf even come to be? That doesn't look like something that you just wake up with no life experience and come up with the idea. I get the impression that there's quite a accumulation of life that led into it.
Absolutely. I mean, I graduated high school here in Santa Fe, and I chose not to go to college. And instead, I got my first apartment at 19, and I started to create really radical psychedelic spaces at my apartment, through whatever materials I could find or shoplift, like fabrics and Christmas lights and spray paint and, fluorescent paint and black lights, and just literally turning my apartment into a weird, wild world to then host parties inside of, to then like build like friends. It was like a really actually like extensive orchestration in order to have friends that liked me and have social dynamics that were like unique. That sort of then translated into throwing parties outside of my apartment and kind of like becoming more of a, I guess you could say, rave like party promoter here in town. And also got into experimental theater, experimental like theater on stage, which also allowed for set building and allowed for like communal aspects. So we sort of created a theater troupe through my 20s called the Epileptic Pterodactyl. And the Epileptic Pterodactyl was just kind of like this like very animal collective inspired theatrical group. The Epileptic Pterodactyl then moved into Meow Wolf in its next iteration. And I was always used to being the creative lead in a lot of ways. But once Meow Wolf was formed, I was amongst artists like Katie, and Emily and Benji, like a lot of our founders who were way, way, way better at art and creativity than I was. So I kind of sat back and asked myself, like, how can I best support this whole collective, this whole process? And, so I bought a big pair of glasses and I like cut my hair short and I like started to dress properly. And like, I became the guy who, if the cops showed up at the warehouse, I would talk to the cops. Or like, if we needed a lease signed, I would talk to the landlord and try to negotiate the lease. Or if we needed to raise money, I would try to pull together funds from people locally who could donate. So that I kind of just started taking on that role, and that evolved into then me becoming the CEO once we decided to turn this all into a business, and rapidly learned business like as fast as I possibly could of what it meant to raise money, what it meant to have employees, and and that was all this big push to open the Santa Fe exhibition. And once that opened, it was like, wow, it's worked. I can't believe this worked. When we started that project, the Santa Fe one, we were making like $12 an hour as food delivery people. Like that's the job that the founders had at the same time as us building the House of Eternal Return. And so then in a matter of months after we opened the project, we're now like making millions of dollars. Like we made like $10 million in our first year. And we were just like, what the hell has happened to our lives? And like, how do we continue this? How do we figure out a way to have more employees? How do we figure out a way to like reach more people and try to continue to perfect this expression? So yeah, that's our journey.
I love that your ego did not stand in the way for others that you felt who may or may not have actually been better than the art you do. It was your opinion that they were better, but you were willing to step to the side to, I guess, be the forefront of the spokesman at that point.
The business person really learning from the school of hard knocks.
Yeah. Learning on the go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's quite the story. And I love that it all worked out properly. I mean, look, now you're multiple cities, not just Santa Fe. Now you're Walkabout Mini Golf, DLC. So that's quite the adventure. And again, you said the first one launched 2016. We're only in 2023. I mean, that's quite the short, growth. That's amazing. And I don't know if this is something either of you can comment on. I might be digging a little too deep on this one, but is this a one and done thing? Kind of take it day by day, see the reception, or is there talks to kind of expand more Meow Wolf courses?
I'm going to answer it first as the lawyer, and then you answer critically. So under the deal, we actually have the ability to do more courses because we knew that there were multiple venues for Meow Wolf. So we built that into the structure of the deal. I believe Lucas has said, because they sort of have collapsed at the finish line with this. So they might need a small hiatus to like recover. But yeah, the possibility is definitely there.
Yeah. And I think, based on response of this map and, just if this was good for both sides, I mean, if it is, if the audience likes it and is good for both of us, like Mighty Coconut and Meow Wolf, then of course we would like to do more worlds with them. And it would be great to, there's other worlds we could articulate that we've already built out in physical form, but it would also be great to just start with a completely blank canvas and say, let's create a new world that's exclusively in VR. And I know that gets our team like really excited.
I think both sides of that would probably have the most fun putting with that final stamp of approval for Meow Wolf. No, that's a fair enough answer.
Yeah, and I love I don't love the visual.
I expect it to be one of the most well perceived, and they all are. Very rarely do you read negativity about courses, but this one I believe is going to stand out.
For me, it's. I agree with what you said. It's. I know we say it every time, but
it
I
hurts
really
to say
think
a favorite.
I really think that
does.
this time it is. I think it's my favorite, the most fun.
I've been having too much fun, and I don't feel like I've seen but like 5% of what is available to really see. I haven't explored every nook and cranny. I haven't found every ball.
I was going to say Edward really hit the balls this time. It's actually been a challenge, and I don't love the visual of Lucas collapsing at the end of it, but it's really symbolic of, you see that amount of effort put into the course. Like we said, everything from the gameplay mechanics, but most importantly, visually, audibly. I mean, this course is the entire team's outdone its own.
But yeah, it's the total package.
So selfishly, as a consumer, as a fan, as a Walkabout lover, I hope it's not the last.
Well, I'm going to actually follow up a little bit because you mentioned the sound, and I think Vince, right? It's the ambient sound from Numina that typically Chris Raymond is doing the soundtrack. But in this instance, I think it's all your sounds. You really get the spatial quality that they've developed.
Yeah, we sent audio files from our development of physical Numina. We sent those audio files over to the Mighty Coconut team to be tweaked appropriately and placed appropriately. It's phenomenal. I mean, the work that Mighty Coconut did with the sound is, as usual, awesome.
I think that's a genius idea because, now anybody that goes to the Meow Wolf course, there's going to be just another layer of, something familiar. Like, I know, where have I heard that?
Oh,
that noise?
Yeah, I would think anybody who's ever been to one of their, no matter what city they're in, they're going to be all over this.
Yeah, on the inverse side, people that have gone, when they hear those noises, they're going to go, oh my God, I can't believe they got it in the game. So
they nailed it.
We hope that that does that too. What you just said is like that this opens up, Walkabout Mini Golf, but also opens up VR to an audience, that maybe previously was holding off, by doing this, there's no better way to experience an immersive world other than being there in real life. And in some ways it's even better in VR, it's, you have so much more agency and freedom in VR.
And I think that's where people who kind of look at Walkabout and think, like, how can this be good? It's just mini golf. It's because Walkabout is like mini golf and so much more, right? It's the mini golf is great. The physics are great, but you realize that it's not about the mini golf on some level. And I was just thinking, as you're talking about your favorite courses, one of the ones where people kind of bumped a little bit was Upside Town, right? Because it kind of messed with your sense of mastery that you could do the thing. And then after a little while, you figured it out. So I think there's a quality of that to Meow Wolf. And David has been using a great tagline, which I love, which they say, now open if you are. And that's exactly the framing. Like, it's mini golf, but in Meow Wolf. So open your mind and be prepared, right? It's just really like a mind opening experience on every level in real life and in VR. And so that's the key. You have to be open.
And we leaned into the walkabout part. Like, the game's called Walkabout Mini Golf, and it's like, we love the walkabout component. Like, they just very simple exploration and discovery that the Mighty Coconut team has done with the game. They're understanding that the world we live in is actually a pretty chill world. It's not crazy. And for a VR game to be successful, it has to match the chillness of the world that we live in. And I don't think many video game designers have really grasped that yet, but Mighty Coconut grasped that, where like it doesn't need to, it actually wants to be more calm and composed, because that is a better translation of the world we actually live in every day, and that makes for a better VR experience. Too much action, too much movement, too many things going on. It's like, this isn't real. This is breaking the wall of reality for me. And when you're in VR, you want to feel like it's real, and they did an incredible job of doing that. And that goes right down to like the ability to just walk around. Like, I don't have to do anything, in reality, we don't have to do anything. We have choice, we have agency, and we can just explore, we can just enjoy. And oftentimes in VR or in games in general, there isn't the chance to do that. So.
Oh, that's part of that Walkabout. I mean, there's a reason why some studios who are coming out refer to Walkabout as a whole of that's what they wish they can emulate. It's part of that whole in-studio vibe. We've never spoken to anybody who seemed to like, oh man, I got to go to work. It's like everybody's excited. The excitement Michele has, even just talking about it, it's like it resonates to everybody. So,
and it's a team of rock stars. We referenced Don and Edward and even David Wyatt, everybody that we've talked to, from like Lucas Martell himself. Yeah.
Talked to him twice.
I mean, the whole team crushes it. And I love to hear that there is a head of licensing at Mighty Coconut, because I got instantly excited for the first ever license course. And I love to see that that's something that's expanded upon and continued. And if there's a head of licensing, that probably means it's going to continue.
There's
as
a
well.
reason. Yeah.
So,
we have some good ones coming for 2024. So stay tuned. Yes. I wanted to say that I have this real flash around, again, the Jim Henson Company and, for example, the Muppets, and the degree to which a lot of the, reality of a Muppet is not that it's moving all the time, but it's moving in the right way. There's a little breath, there's a little motion. And I remember vividly when the Jar Jar Binks character came out, and everybody at the Creature Shop was incensed. Just because you can move it doesn't mean you should, right? And so that Jar Jar Binks example of the too much versus just quiet and just a little breath. And that makes it so much more real than all of the agitation. And so, or like the Michelangelo, right? You're sculpting in order to carve away and get to what's really there. So that simplicity piece is sort of an illusion that somehow it's simple or simplistic, but in reality, it's really hard to do, because you're getting to that, just the breath that makes you feel that something is real. And that's the piece that's just like the lightning in a bottle, save that, recognize that that's where the truth of it is.
You can hear the passion, and when the license course,
you don't run into a lot of attorneys that get that excited. I will say. Well,
I challenge anybody to work at Mighty Coconut and not have that excitement, So when I first heard this license stuff, though, my brain instantly went to the obvious ones that you've probably heard every day of your work from someone. Say. Yeah, like Star Wars and stuff like that. You get to have the lightsaber as the putter. But those are the obvious ones. For Mighty Coconut, when it comes time to, hey, let's do a license course, or there's ideas pitched, what's looked for in an IP and a brand that you guys look at and you go, this is a good partner or potential partner?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we're always looking. The goal is to have roughly 2 license courses a year. So we're actually looking at 2025 right now. And so, on the business side, there's stuff there, right? We have to be able to afford it. It has to work for our audience. There's a big part of it in finding, licensors and brand owners who are willing to get weird, right? Like if you're at a giant studio and you're just crunching out numbers and you're like, just put the logo on the thing, then that's not really a great fit for us. And then on the creative side, the creative team thinks a lot about place. So there might be brands and intellectual property where there's amazing characters, but we're not really giving you characters, right? They might be there, but it's not about the characters. And so we work really hard to kind of either identify brands that have a very strong kind of world building, a place you want to go to, or we're doing some where maybe there isn't a place attached, but the creative team has figured out how to give it place so that it's really about place. It's really, when I'm talking to potential brands, I talk about it like, imagine your brand is a theme park And we are doing the mini golf course inside the theme park of the brand. So everything is sort of meta, right? Like it's not a literal translation. It's if there was a Labyrinth theme park, we are the Labyrinth mini golf course inside the theme park. And so, and really, honestly, I think at the end of the day, one of the things we're looking for is there a team on the other side that understands what Walkabout's doing, that understands the creativity of the team? Because we're not really interested in working with people who just is like, this is the style guide, just follow the rules, right? Because that's not what this is. We have to innovate and kind of come up with what's the real experience here for people. So it's a combination, but at the end of the day, I'm sort of happy to report that it is not at all the business side that drives it. It's the creative side. So I have come in with stuff that I'm really excited about, and the team will ponder it and just be like, nope, we can't find the place of it. And so I go back out again. But yeah, so it's super fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like knowing that though.
Yeah, it's all about passion, and like you said, it's not just, hey, this is going to sell a lot with the Batman logo on it. It has to be, hey, we have to make this Batman.
And it also shows that anytime we see a licensed course that involves Walkabout Mini Golf, you know that the other side of it is going to be equally as cool people per se as the Walkabout people, or it would have been left on the table. So that's actually really, really good to know. That it's not just all business and just, do whatever you got to do. Just, make sure it says our name on it. And
no, I describe it as a dance, right? So you sort of have to be on the dance floor, and then you have to see, is anybody else, do they want to dance with you? Do you dance the same way? Do you dance the same rhythm? So, it's a very fluid experience. And so it's been really fun. I will say we did a fun event when we announced Meow Wolf. In March of this year at South by Southwest. We took over the 75-year-old mini golf course called Peter Pan Mini Golf, which is a classic landmark in Austin. And we took 18 holes. And then the supposition, this was Don Carson, was that there has been a rip in the metaverse and Walkabout Mini Golf has landed on Peter Pan. And so we sort of decorated the holes, but we didn't totally take them over. We just put some kind of fun things around. And then we just acted as if that was what happened. So people showed up. We made them wear a funny hat because it had an avatar badge on the top because your avatar name floats above your head. You got to have breakfast tacos and coffee. And then I was in charge of tea time. So I would put people in teams. There were all of the black, utterly identical putters laid out. And I was like, you can pick your putter. And then I'd tell them, stick your putter up in the air and fly. And so people would point their putter in the air and then just run around the course. And so we played 18 holes. And what I loved about it was, here we are, we're demoing a virtual reality game. We're at South by Southwest. It's the most interactive thing ever. And we have no VR headset on the course. We have 0 screens. So the whole thing was play mini golf in the vein of Walkabout, have fun. And we actually, we'll talk about this later, but we did a whole licensing deal coming out of that experience because people were like, I see you. I see what you're doing. And in this whole other way. And so that was just this great expression of, kind of not about the technology, it's about the experience. And that's what you get, that it's equally fun in real life without a headset as it is in the headset. So it's really like Meow Wolf. When you have intellectual property that really easily moves from one medium to the other, is you have a thing, right? Because it's real and people find the truth of it wherever you are. And that's the power.
Interesting with the Meow Wolf collab is, had Meow Wolf been a virtual reality experience first and then became a live interactive, I would have totally made sense to me. It seems like it might have been even harder. Obviously it's successful, so that's out the window, but it would just seem harder to do this massive physical scale environment of psychedelics and experience and originality and then go into VR. So it's just weird to see like what is transferable to VR that you can visit in real life was actually done before being in VR. So yeah, it's crazy.
And, I know at the start, Vince, you referenced that you were looking to get Meow Wolf into different mediums and perhaps even still are. So on your side, do you have a bigger vision too with maybe separate VR apps or different, so to say, mediums to get Meow Wolf onto? Who knows, maybe like a Walkabout Mini Golf course, in-person course inside a Meow Wolf Expo,
That's a great idea. it's funny, like we pull from a lot of different inspirations growing up, like things like, things Miyazaki or Nickelodeon or Henson, Dr. Seuss, all of which, were in different forms, some on television, some in film, form, some in literature, and so we do believe that like Meow Wolf translates to any of those. Putt-Putt Mini Golf is an inspiration for us. Like growing up, like that was a little moment where you could feel like you were in another world. And so, we've always really embraced mini golf itself. And maybe someday we actually do a real life mini golf course. That would be brand appropriate, inspiration appropriate. But yeah, I think the special nature of game engine 3D rendered digital environments is that it fits so closely to our brand promise, to like the promise of Meow Wolf, which is like, we're going to bring you into an amazing world. And so like, that's pretty much what we want to do. We want to bring people into an amazing world. And you can do that in a graphic novel, and you can do that in a tabletop game, or you can do that in a television series, but you can really bring people into a world in, these 3D digital environments, and VR being probably the best window to have that experience. So yeah, we want to do it all. Really excited about like pass through and what the Quest 3 and the Vision Pro and every future iteration of headsets going to be able to do with pass through, and that the gradient between reality and AR to MR and to full VR, and just how you can kind of dance between all those things is super obviously interesting to us.
Well, it's an exciting time to be an artist for sure. My artistic ability is terrible, like traditional crappy looking 3D cubes, sketches. So I appreciate art though. So I think that people having that medium that they can use is just makes it more accessible to everybody.
Yeah, without doubt. I think it you kind of referenced at the start too. It removes all restrictions of,
it's no
whether
rules.
the ADA requirements or actual physical gravity or just anything, VR. You just got to design it. And possibilities are endless.
Replaced it with the rules of you still have to live within inside your compute power box of what you can do. So different rules, but yes, liberating.
So from a licensing standpoint, would you say that the Meow Wolf collab was one of the easier to do, or is it pretty much because of the personalities and the harmony that they're all pretty much equal?
I would say not easy to do in the sense, because I think they really did challenge themselves and challenge with Katie to like, let's be creative, let's go hard. Like they worked really hard on it. And I think one of the things that they look at, because there is such a regular cadence of new courses, that they're really managing the team, right? And so I would say it was a very intense course from that perspective. Easy in the sense of, there's a meeting of the minds, right? We're not dealing with a licensor who's crossing things out and is mad. It was like, more like, let's make 38 characters. So, I think it was delightful.
Okay.
That's awesome. And for you, Michelle, had you tried VR prior to working at Mighty Coconut, or was this your first introduction to VR as well?
No, I had tried VR, but, kind of in the like South by booth, put on a headset. Austin has had a very active virtual reality community for a good while, because there's a lot of game developers here. And so I was part of that. And so, but honestly, a lot of stuff are like, you put the headset on and that's a pain, or it's, like just the threshold of getting into it. And what I love is putting a headset on somebody and getting them into Walkabout, because it takes no time before they're like, oh my God. I mean, I literally had somebody over at my house for Thanksgiving. I put them in the headset. They played the Temple of Zerzura, and they turned around and bought a Quest 2 and there we go, sold the game. Because that's the part that's hard to find, right? Is it's so easy and it's so intuitive, and there's not a bunch of things I have to do, and I don't have to spend an hour trying to set something up. I just play a game, and I play a game that I understand how to play. I sort of think of myself as playing mom mini golf, which is you're playing with your kids and you don't care what your score is. I get like stroke reached or whatever, and I'm like, no problem. I'm never trying to be good. I just play it for fun because I don't need to win a tournament.
That's how I am too. I usually go I want to test the engine. I want to test the boundaries of the game. If I can hit a crazy shot and, maybe I'll miss it, but if I can get it, it makes it worth it. I don't really care too much about score. I even think hard mode. I think I was like negative 38.
38 you were.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, it's about fun though. I still had a blast.
Well, there's a lot of people who actually own headsets and the only thing they own is Walkabout Mini Golf.
Well, in your case, Vince, it's your significant other. With me and my dad here, it's father and son, or if it's friends, it's when you play with somebody that in real life, virtually in Walkabout Mini Golf, it is one of the most magical things that you can do in VR. And again, it sounds so simple, but I mean, in your story, you show a friend and they go out, they buy a headset. Like that's you. As soon as you go in, you're gonna get it. So something I love about this too is we speculated this as soon as the licensing, courses and stuff like that started, was that not only is it going to be Walkabout Mini Golf going out to brands, but we knew inevitably there's going to be brands that love Walkabout Mini Golf and actually approach you guys to do it. So I love the fact that we got confirmation that you have Walkabout Mini Golf fans out there like Vince, and they play it and they go, let's do this. Let's see if we can do it. And then Walkabout Mini Golf, Mighty Coconut, you all are receptive to it. So I love to hear that.
I wish I could have gone to one of Vince's raves.
And then, Michelle, you had referenced that the announcement that you all did for Meow Wolf is kind of leading to its own separate licensing. Are you able to talk about that a little bit today? Or I know you say you talk about it down the line, so I'm guessing that means, when Mighty Coconut's ready to announce it. Yeah.
Yes. But we're super excited about them. I think they continue the trend of what you're seeing, which is kind of beloved brands, but also where there's that creativity, kind of where you can see the fingerprints of creators, right? And I think that's really sort of the difference, is that we're not super interested in brands that are slick and commercial and you can't feel the people behind it, right? It's like, no, it's still like there's people making it, whatever that is, and you can feel that human quality. And those sort of tend to be the places we associate. I will say on the licensing side, we've gotten really inventive and we're looking at a million different things that aren't only linear stories, but like all different kinds of things that could be turned into a place. So more to come.
Ooh, I'm excited. This is why I love to get the coconuts on. They always bring.
It's never a dull moment.
Bring something good. Ooh.
And the energy is always just upbeat and positive. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think. You surround yourself with positive, upbeat people, you're going to be positive and upbeat.
Yeah, and I love the energy that Vince brought to this. You can see why that this is
Dude, again, I never would have gotten to experience this.
Yeah.
So for all the stars to align for...
Now people like me and you get to experience a little bit of that Meow Wolf creative vision is amazing. So before we let Vincent and Michelle go, is there anything else that you wanted to ask them that...
I got more than I would have hoped for out of this.
Yeah, so. It's always a good time having you two on. But kind of inverse to you two, before we let you two go, is there anything else that you wanted to say about this course or Walkabout Mini Golf in general? Maybe, Vince, you could list off all the cities that, people can find Meow Wolf. I think you did that at the start, but just to get it one more time.
Yeah, so our original location is in Santa Fe. Very special because it was done on like a shoestring budget, and you can really see the blood, sweat, and tears work. And then in Vegas, literally one of the coolest things in Vegas, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a part of Meow Wolf, but Vegas, with all of that it has very little, and Meow Wolf stands as something that is truly remarkable in that city. And that project's called Omega Mart. You get to go inside of a completely fake grocery store, and it's hilarious and mind blowing. And then in Denver, we have Convergence Station, which is seriously and that's where Numina is inside of Convergence Station. And it's jaw dropping, monumental. That in Dallas, we're in a little city called Grapevine, which is near the airport, near DFW. So if you're ever flying in or flying out of DFW and you have an extra couple hours, sneak on over to the Real Unreal. That's Meow Wolf's latest. And then we'll be in Houston, hopefully sometime in 2024. So yeah, that's where we're going right now.
have to do the Meow Wolf World Tour.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of that's in Texas, so you could just do the Texas tour and hit a good amount of them. That's good. That's good Texas tourism incentive if there isn't enough as is. So,
yep, I'll officially invite you to come do your podcast at South by and check out all the good stuff in Texas.
Ooh, that's a hard one to say no to. I've heard nothing but good things about Austin, Texas, in general. I don't think anybody I know has gone there and been like, nah, boring city.
I'd never go back.
Yeah,
no, I haven't heard that. I went to Dallas, Fort Worth, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. So always heard good things. And, again, it was a real treat to be able to talk to both of you. Michele, it was great to get some insight on the licensing side of things. That's something that excites us a lot about the future of Walkabout Mini Golf. And Vince, I don't think that there could have been a better person to have on to talk about the vision of Meow Wolf in Walkabout Mini Golf. I love to hear that you're an actual fan, and that's what got this whole thing started. So, you can really see that passion and that love in what we're both saying. It's hard to say for sure, but it's been long enough. I think I can that it's my favorite course.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, it's so well done. So thank you both for joining us today. To the listeners, like always, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, but more importantly, go check out Walkabout Mini Golf if you somehow haven't, and also more importantly, the new Meow Wolf DLC that is a steal, cost of a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It's so well priced,
cheaper than a cup of coffee.
Yeah, depending on where you're at, absolutely. And 36 holes, 18 on easy, 18 on hard, so well done. Yeah, this is amazing.
Happy hunting for the balls.
Yeah, good luck on this one, Edward. He outdid himself for sure. So again, thank you both, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for having us.
Ciao,
Thanks,
ciao.
Vince.
Yeah, thanks
Bye.
for